The number one competitor in B2B sales is no decision. More deals are lost to no decision than anything else. So guess what? All those folks that ghosted you last year, they still have that problem. You might want to rewarm that lead pool. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Marketing Blender Show. I'm Dacia.
And I'm Daisy.
Now, if you guys are new, we've got a number of new subscribers. We do this show for marketers, for marketing leaders, for sales leaders, and for business owners to get actionable takeaways on how to get marketing working and driving revenue. This show is about return on investment, and we decide to define that where you get clear attributed impact on revenue. You have reputation and you're stewarding it intentionally and getting more reach, positive reach and word of mouth. And it builds resilience because you are building a system where marketing becomes a strength and a competitive advantage for you. So if this sounds like something you like, you are in the right place because today we are going to talk about how to get B2B leads much faster. So I just rattled off a whole bunch of stuff. I get so excited because we get this B2B question about leads all the time. And I just wanted to introduce people to the idea that you're not just building leads, you're building revenue, and you're building revenue system that creates predictable, forecastable growth.
Absolutely. So I think the first thing we have to cover is, what is a lead?
Let's go. Yeah, you guys, this one sounds like, what's a lead? It's somebody who wants to buy from us. No, it's not. Let me introduce you to the world of marketing qualified leads versus sales qualified leads. So, Daisy, how do you define a marketing qualified lead? Because I'm pretty sure a whole bunch of people just went, ooh, whatever that is, I don't want that, and that does not sound good.
Sure. So we should actually step up one step back and say it's not a contact. A contact is not a lead. You can't buy lead lists that are just a set of contacts. So we're not going to be talking about those, but we are going to be talking about marketing qualified leads and sales qualified leads. So marketing qualified lead is someone in your target market. So it is the correct persona. And they have indicated an interest in learning about something that you offer, or they've indicated an interest that they're ready to begin a journey of self-educating and making progress. You have their contact information and you can verify their identity. So those are the three things. They've indicated an interest, you know who they are, and you can reach out to them with follow-up. That's it. That's a marketing qualified lead because they've agreed to engage in the dance of learning more. Sometimes they may be 2 years away from making a decision. Sometimes they might be 90 days away from making a decision. But you have the ability to build a relationship with them because you know who they are and you know how to reach out to them and you know that they're at least somewhat interested in the thing that you're offering to them. And those are your top of funnel leads. Those are the ones that are going to build your future pipeline. So when you understand the value of having a large group of people from which, whatever it is, 5%, 10%, 15% over the next 12 to 18 months will emerge as prospects. That's actually highly valuable. It's not just a pool of people who are on an email list and you're like, well, what are these people doing for me? You should be asking, what am I doing for them? How am I helping them make progress in their journey? A sales qualified lead meets the criteria of a marketing qualified lead, but also has an immediate or a near-term need to purchase. They have the budget and the authority to make a yes decision. So that is a sales qualified lead. We would all love to have more sales qualified leads. And we're going to be talking about how to get both MQLs and SQLs in today's episode. But bear in mind that this is, a progressive journey from marketing qualified lead to sales qualified lead. So if your focus is just, I only want people who are ready to buy right now, what you're saying is, I want 97% of my future revenue to be given to my competitors because I don't care about the people who want to buy later.
Yes. I feel like when we're thinking marketing qualified leads, this is how you earn your seat at the table. This is how you guarantee you're one of the finalists. And this is how you do start to build resilience in your pipeline and predictable, faster, accelerated lead gen and thus accelerated revenue. So anytime a leader says, we need to get our name out there, they don't realize they're asking for marketing qualified leads. That is the leading indicator, the metric that we are gauging to start talking about share of voice and, our ownership in the ecosystem and how often are we going to get invited to the table. So it's kind of weird that they'll ask for this, and then when they get it, they're like, wait, these people aren't ready to buy. Not yet, but they will be.
That's future pipeline.
Exactly.
There's current pipeline, SQLs, future pipeline, MQLs.
Exactly.
And what business owner, if you have that conversation, is actually going to say, you know what, I don't think I want to be in business next year, so
totally.
What do I care about?
Totally. So I'm probably going to have Charlie put an image on the screen for you guys while I'm explaining, but there is a funnel. And everybody's familiar with the funnel, but we really want you to see what we mean when we're talking about revenue impact and when it comes to B2B leads. So there is visibility at the top. And then as you look down the funnel, you're going to notice that win-loss ratio and closing is not at the bottom because you still have customer cross-sells, upsells, referrals, and loyalty. You have to have a total revenue system. And the reason I want to show this is because I want to tell you that as people that are fractional CMOs and we have outsourced marketing teams, we always want to have near-term impact. We always want to focus on sales qualified leads first and then build resilience up depending on where the client is in their progress. So Daisy, just noting that sales qualified leads are near-term impact. Where's the first place? Like, what is one of your, let's start listing out some of our favorite ways to get faster lead generation. And let's go ahead and start with sales qualified leads for the people that are like, I've got to hit my number this quarter. I don't know how I'm going to do that.
So I work with a lot of solopreneurs, startups, small businesses where they're in the grind and hustle phase of I have to make revenue. It's putting the roof over my head. It's keeping my family fed. I need sales qualified leads now. And the number one place that I ask these entrepreneurs to go is in front of a room. So if you can get speaking engagements in front of a room full of your target prospects, that is the fastest way to move people through the sales cycle into an actual sales conversation. And that's because all of the pieces that go into a marketing funnel, you're doing in one short session in person where it has the highest impact. You have the greatest ability to build trust and credibility and provide value when you're face-to-face with other human beings. So it's cutting out a lot of that long, winding road of work toward, okay, do people trust me? Do they like me? Do they want to do business with me? Am I giving them enough information to move forward? You're shortcutting all of that. So if you can get in front of a room and speak to them as an expert on a topic that matters to them, that's going to be your fastest way to get sales qualified leads. And those are the ones that we'll often see. I know, Dacia, you and I both do speaking engagements, and you've been doing a lot of them lately. It's often, see you speak, get on a discovery call the next week, and then they're like, where's my contract? Let's get ready to roll. So what if you're not great at public speaking? That actually matters less than the topic that you're talking about, because the thing that people will actually leave their houses in this post-pandemic age and go to a physical location and sit in a seat and watch somebody talk about is someone who has the answers to the questions that they must have answered now. So if you're thinking about what can I talk about, what's my topic, it's going to be about answering those most urgent questions. And if that's the thing that you focus on, especially if they're having trouble getting those answers anywhere else, they will show up, they will listen, and you're providing maximum value, so they're most likely to choose you to solve their problem.
Yeah, and it's a really comfortable experience for an audience member, and especially the more intimate the engagement, where you're bringing really high quality content for them. They're not being convinced. You're not selling anything. I mean, you're educating. So they get to sit there and go, does this align with my worldview? Does this make sense for my business? They get to put on critical thinking and really dive deeply into that. And so when you finally are communicating with them, you already drove value. Now you get to be specific about how that value creation will happen once they're a customer. So it's a much more straightforward and very engaging, exciting experience for that prospect because they know what they're buying.
There's no way for them to not feel special in that type of situation.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. So the next one, and it's a little bit of a segue, the next one that I want to bring up to get high quality sales qualified leads is activating referrals. Now, I don't just mean referral programs in regards to paid referral programs. I mean, you are probably getting referrals all the time because you do great work, you have a great reputation, and we want you to do that more intentionally. And there are a number of buyer personas that we've worked through where their core source of information is their inner circle. That means we legitimately cannot reach those people except through those advocates and that inner circle. So guess who we target? We target those referrers. And so, making sure that we really understand the buyer's journey, why people refer, what role they play, and what value we bring to them, very exciting. And of course, very short pathway to revenue, because that sales qualified lead, that person knows that they're ready to buy, and they know that this is a likely fit because it's reflective of their reputation and their relationship as well.
There is a really good example of a commercial roofing company here locally in the DFW area that changed their entire business and started being named #1 roofing company in Fort Worth over and over and over because they stopped marketing to their customers. They were like, we're not going to knock doors. We're not going to chase leads anymore. And they shifted their entire marketing system to be aimed at bankers and insurers. And that's who they provide education and value to, because those are the people who are making recommendations around what roofing company should business owners use. And it was a complete transformation, and nobody can catch them. Nobody in their competitive landscape, and there are a lot of commercial roofing companies here in DFW, nobody can touch them because they've understood who their buyer persona is in a way that none of their competitors have.
Exactly. And this is a great activation for professional service companies in general, because that ecosystem. And, when you're buying a service, it's a little scary. You are hoping, praying, crossing your fingers, they're smart or they're talented, but you really don't know. Like, that intangible component to hiring a service can be very nerve-wracking, and that's why that referral process is so important. So, I love that example. Next one up on the list, what have you got?
I've got digital marketing as the next one. And this is one of those that can have, varying timelines to success. So if you're doing digital marketing and it's fairly long funnels, those are usually going to be bringing in your marketing qualified leads, which obviously you want to have. Those are high value to you over the long term. And then you've got some shorter funnels that are sometimes around very commercially focused intent or transactional intent, where people are looking to actually do something very specific and they're looking to do it right now. So we'll see different types of ad campaigns or different types of digital marketing campaigns that work for MQLs or for SQLs. When it comes to Google Ads, search intent ads, those are often closer to the bottom of the funnel. Now, that's why they tend to be more competitive. So those keywords that people are searching when they're ready to buy are usually much higher in cost than the keywords that they're searching when they're looking to learn. But you can identify clearly from the types of terms that people are searching where they are in their buying process. And if you can find the ones that are commercial intent that are inexpensive enough for you to actually bid on and compete on, especially if it's ones that your competitors are kind of ignoring, that's a really good opportunity for you to build a sales qualified lead funnel very rapidly. And we'll often see businesses within 90 days, they've got strong lead flow. We've seen businesses, Google Ads launch, and within the first week, they've got sales qualified leads and they're starting to move into proposal phase. Doesn't happen every time. This is going to depend on how competitive your landscape is and the quality of your offer and the psychology of your buyers. But it is possible to rapidly generate B2B leads using digital marketing funnels.
Yeah, I mean, this is where keyword strategy, if it's Google AdWords, is critically important. And we love having highly educated clients. We believe great clients are educated clients because they're able to ask great questions, bring ideas to the table, and they really understand the strategy. And so Daisy's right, Google AdWords are often closer to the point of sale because of the buying intent. But what we want to get you to eventually, because we're building a system, is an ecosystem where you are influencing all of the different intents, from research to progress all the way through to buying intent. So typically budgets don't start there, but that's how you systematize. Is once you're really solid, you keep expanding so you can increase your return on investment and increase your forecastability past this quarter into, next half and next year. And it's a very exciting approach. So agreed, digital marketing is fantastic. And I guess I shouldn't say shocked. I'm saddened by how many people, whether in audiences that I speak to or prospects that call in, that say digital marketing just doesn't work for us. Ooh, okay. That is very rarely true. It's true sometimes, but
Yes.
you can see that ahead of time. And we have had clients where we're like, no, you can't win here. Like, whether because budget, because of competition, or because of intent, or because the buyer's journey, they don't research on Google or anywhere else. There are times when we say no, but generally speaking, you should have been able to identify that ahead of time. And then the conversation switches to how much does it cost to win? How long, like what's the rate, the speed to revenue of this? And sometimes the answer is a year. Sometimes the answer is a week,
Right.
But you can have those conversations confidently and collaboratively. We're not talking about a crystal ball, but we are talking about a healthy creation of a system and just understanding digital marketing. It's not wizardry, but so many people just spew marketing jargon at clients and they get burned by digital marketing, and it shouldn't be like that.
They do. And to your point about building an ecosystem and building that predictability, you don't just want leads fast now. You want it to be easier to get them in the future and faster to get them in the future. You want to accelerate people through that pipeline. So those are the areas where things like brand building and marketing to bring in your MQLs, those are the things that make it easier to do this faster on an ongoing basis.
One of the things I'm going to add just as a tail onto this is if we want B2B leads faster, I want to see companies niche down. Now, I don't mean permanently. I don't mean every single thing. Mm-hmm. However, pick the people that are predisposed to buy from you now and spend on those people. It doesn't matter if you can serve 25 different verticals. There are verticals with more intense pain and more intense frustration or more intense goal achievement, and you need to spend money on them and then build from that. So I'm a big proponent of niche down because people are like, oh, that's me. They get it. They understand my portfolio. They've worked with clients like me. I mean, it speeds everything up, including the sales process.
That's a really nice point to make. If you are thinking about what do startups need to do, they need to identify their early adopters.
Yeah.
But mature businesses need to go back to that early concept and say, okay, if I want to do this faster, who are the people who have the most pain, the highest risk tolerance, and that I can reach the most easily? They need to go back to the basics of who's most likely to buy right now and stop thinking about that just from through the lens of everything they've experienced over the last 20 years. But go back to, what if I was just coming into this?
Yeah.
Who could I convince that didn't know anything about my company or my background? That's a really good place to go back to and think about, these are actually the people that I could sell to most easily.
Yeah. And this year's kind of really on point for this. It's an election year. So there are a number of industries that are like, we're going to wait. We're going to wait. We're going to wait. It happens every 4 years.
Every time.
Like clockwork. And so when you have your core verticals waiting, you probably ought to shift and adjust to who are the ones that won't or can't or don't wait during the election year. And, where can you find those hot spots, of buyer behavior that maybe shift for 6 months or a year or something like that, and just really be thinking about the humans you serve.
What if you're a small business, a startup, or even a nonprofit? We serve you with the same strategies, processes, and frameworks that help you grow no matter your business size or your business stage. In fact, the smaller your business and the smaller your budget, the more important it is to get real advice from a chief marketing officer so you can stop wasting money, start getting more of your ideal customers, and keep more of the customers that you have. If you want to learn more about how to do that affordably, talk with me about our Marketing Blender Lab program.
Okay. Next one I've got on the list, and I think some of you are going to love it, some of you are going to hate it, but we still do like webinars. Now, I want to put one caveat on this. The webinar and how its delivery is, I go back to video, right? Maybe it's gated, maybe it's not, maybe it's part of a marketing funnel, maybe it's not, but high value content, because not everybody is going to go to a physical location for a speaking engagement, and this is a fantastic number 2, but you need to treat a webinar just like you would a speaking engagement where you are creating massive high value, not pitching your thing.
Right. My webinar is a demo of my product.
Yes.
Now, I have actually seen that work in hybrid conferences where
Yeah.
people are specifically going there to do some kind of product selection.
Oh, yeah,
So they'll
good
do
point.
like a group demo thing. Other than that, no, absolutely not. That's not the thing that people are trying to solve is,
No.
I just don't understand how your product works. Will you spend 45 minutes showing that to me? Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
And there's so many other things you can do with webinars, which is why I like them. Get a partner, somebody who's in an adjacent industry, one of your current vendors, or like friends, anything. But then you can tap into their audience. You can tap into your audience. You can create more value in your content because you're looking at a problem or an environment or a specific topic more holistically. So I love that because you're just maximizing the reach, in addition to the value that you create.
So here's one of the best ways to make sure you can get a co-sponsor into your webinar. You do all the heavy lifting of this is the topic. We're creating the deck. We're building out, pre and post marketing assets for the webinar. We're, building any systems. We're figuring out what we should be doing within the webinar. And all they have to do is bring you their audience. Because that's the hardest part is how do I fill my webinar? So you want to make sure that you're aligning yourself with people who are bringing the value by bringing the eyes, by bringing access to their audience into your webinar. So as long as you're doing all the heavy lifting, all they need to do is show up and smile and talk about stuff they already know about because they're an expert at it, adding value for your audience. If you're handling all of the rest of it for them, they're much more likely to say yes to that engagement.
And one thing I want to add, because almost all of our clients have, belly to belly salespeople. Your salespeople should be inviting one-to-one. They should be texting people. You have this problem. We have this conversation. We've got a really great piece of content, a really great webinar coming out. I think you're going to like it. The likelihood that people show up after after registering, so much higher when you have that one-to-one follow-up. So I love that. And side note, you're probably going to be running a funnel in order to get your webinar full. And we do have an episode that we did last week about how to drive a really effective B2B marketing funnel. So you might want to check it out if you're thinking about doing a webinar to drive faster leads.
For sure. So I have a couple more tips around how to run effective webinars so that you can generate leads from them. Number one, you do need to have people registering, and you do need to have an indication in that registration of do they want to receive marketing follow-up, because that's one of the ways that you can identify the level of interest people have in your topic. If people are like, yes, please send me all the information afterward, I want to have a copy of the deck that you ran, all of that good stuff, is indicating that what you're offering is really high value and they do actually want to make progress forward. So again, you're eliminating tire kickers from your marketing funnel, and you're making sure that you have people that are engaged and interested. You want to make sure during your actual webinar that you are including as many opportunities to engage that live audience as possible. Now, I know that a lot of people, when they're in webinars, they're typing on their computer, they're scrolling on their phone at the same time, they're highly distracted. You want to end that distraction and make sure that people are responding. So polls are an excellent way to do this. Even if you're just on a regular Zoom call and you're like yes or no questions that they can answer in the chat section, your sales team should be on the webinar in the chat section talking to people for you. You should have calls to action within the webinar. You should have additional things that people can do. Sometimes it's appropriate to have some kind of giveaway where you spin a wheel, and always just make sure that people have something to do that makes them feel like they're engaging in a live conversation with you, because you know what? They showed up in real time to spend time with you. You showed up in real time to engage with them. Make sure that there's as much opportunity for two-way conversation as possible. And I'm a big fan of not saving Q&A for the end, but making sure that people can ask questions as they go along, because a lot of people do drop off by the end. And you want to make sure that anyone who's interested enough to ask a question has an easy and early opportunity to do that. And then, of course, you want to make sure you've got follow-up. So what are the things that you can engage people with as next steps? So I love to drop little nuggets along the way in my webinars where I'm saying, and you can get this resource if you direct message me on LinkedIn, or drop your email in the chat and I'll make sure you get a copy of the deck afterwards. So I'm giving them things that they want within the webinar, but they have to take an action to get it, because I'm training them psychologically that when I give them a prompt, they respond. I give them a prompt, they respond. And that's the way you help people earn the trust that it's going to take for them to have those later conversations with you.
Gosh, I love this. And I think people forget that a webinar is a speaking engagement and that there is an audience experience that either will throw a positive halo to you or not. And so, when you go to a live speaking engagement, a lot of times there's an MC or there's somebody that's going to introduce the next speaker. You should be on 5 minutes ahead of the webinar, not right on there, because it's nerve-wracking for certain personalities to get on exactly at noon and it hasn't started yet. It's incredibly frustrating for people. So even just seeing a placeholder screen, like, oh, okay, I'm in the right place, like, all right. And then having somebody talking like, hey guys, we're going to start at 3 after the hour, and have a little fun. Where are you from? I mean, we've asked things like, what color socks are you wearing right now? If you throw something out to keep people just a little off kilter and they're like, oh, they're going to be human now. It's so fun to see people start. And then I love when there is a facilitator where someone can say, Daisy, Steven from Wisconsin just made a great point about what you just said. And you've got somebody validating like the chat and validating the experience and bringing that in. So I could not agree more on everything that you just said. Like, and then it's rewarding, like to put it onto, you don't feel like I just sat there and stared at a screen and I don't have the slightest idea if anybody enjoyed that or not. It's a terrible experience for a speaker. So don't do that to yourself, So
for sure. And I would say webinars are one of the lowest cost ways to get really high qualified engaged leads from your marketing system, because the technology to do it, you don't have to go spend $12,000 on some kind of video conferencing platform anymore. You can use Zoom. You just have to have the right topic. You've got to engage people, and you've got to have a way to follow up.
Agreed. Now, I am going to give one little tip for those of you that do have budgets. One opportunity to consider, depending on your buyer persona, depending on your industry, we always go to targeting first, but there are certain media in your industry, certain industry publications that have an amazingly engaged following. And buying a webinar on their platform where they do the recruiting for you can be astonishing if you have a really great topic. I mean, at times when we've deployed this, we have seen hundreds of qualified people show up when the topic was right, when the industry publication or media source was really well thought out, and when we had a system of follow-up in place. It can be a very great accelerator. But you don't just want to guess. You want to make sure, if I'm going to spend $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 buying a webinar on an owned audience, like a media audience, then you really want to make sure that you've put that strategy in place, because it can be an accelerant if you have the money to spend.
It is. And you should have tested that webinar at lower costs.
Agreed.
And you pick your best one.
Yeah.
And we've done this with some of our speaking engagements. Like if we know if we're going to a conference, there's one topic that we do over and over again.
One.
Exactly. Because it's the one that everybody will come and see.
Yep. 100%. So, okay, well, we're going to switch gears now, and we're going to focus a little bit more on sales enablement from a marketing perspective. How can you drive high quality B2B leads much faster when you're saying, well, yeah, but digital marketing or marketing hasn't worked for us? Now, this oftentimes is when you're talking buyers that are highly sought after. Think big box buyers where just loads and loads of vendors and people are just knocking and reaching out to them, and they have put up screens around themselves because it's overwhelming. And so we like to activate something called account-based marketing, which enables the sales team.
It does. And this is one of those marketing jargon pieces. ABM, what does that mean? Account-based marketing. It's about the accounts. So if you think back to, Mad Men days, and they had account executives, and there were people who were so focused on delighting a specific prospect and engaging that specific prospect and bringing them in and making sure that everything they needed. That's the kind of engagement we're talking about, although with less problematic overtones. But it's really a very tightly married sales and marketing effort. So it's really kind of sales, business development, marketing all working together. So you do need to have very specific targets. We usually tell our clients 20 to 30. Bring me the 20 to 30 names of specific companies and the specific human beings within those companies that you need to engage and influence in order to get a seat at the table. And those are the people we're going to focus on marketing to. You need to understand who those people are. You need to understand their psychographics, who they're surrounded by, who's influencing them, how they make decisions, how they perceive their problem, even if it's an incorrect assumption that they're making. What is it that they think they're trying to solve? And then what is it that's going to help them make progress? And how can you be different than everybody else who's trying to reach out to them? So once you have that, 20 to 30 that you're going to go after, then it's time to build a marketing system of repeated outreach that enables your sales team to effectively and continuously do outreach in a way that's not spammy, that's not intrusive, but is interruptive with value, so that you can actually spark those sales conversations and turn those opportunities into qualified leads in your system. So what are some of the ways that you like to have marketing assist in building out ABM?
Okay, so the first thing I want to say is this is about discipline. When Daisy said this is a system, she is not kidding. You're not winging it. Named list, loads of research, and then omni-channel outreach. So I love when there's a choreography where, we maybe deploy some digital marketing to warm up the awareness of, name recognition and value proposition. Then there's one-to-one outreach, LinkedIn or some other social media, respectful. Maybe we're engaging with their comments. And I really like this because then the salespeople are both doing research on what they're posting on social media, but they're engaging in a human way and really having to activate and pay attention to these individual humans, how they're functioning. We do loads of research on their websites. I mean, a lot of times these are enterprise companies, and so you can pull their reports and all of their public documentation. What did the CEO say? Where do they think their growth is going to come from? And you can align your messaging, and that's a real key. Like, we are not guessing what we're saying. We are customizing individual touches to these 20 people or so. And sometimes they might be buying committees. So I love that. I love lumpy mail, as long as it's appropriate in your industry and it's on point for your message, because we're really just trying to be memorable or delight a client, I mean, just even if the response is, that's clever, I'll take it, because it just moved your position, to something of significance and awareness, with a very hard to reach buyer. And then I think the other thing, like, we're working with a couple clients on these type of campaigns right now, and every single one of them has been surprised that we are recommending 8 touches, 16 touches, 3 months, 4 months of weekly outreach in multiple ways that's still respectful but high value. All of them are surprised we're going from past 3 touches. But that's why it works. And that's why it requires marketing engagement and tracking all the way through, because you're whale hunting typically. You land 2 or 3 of these a quarter, game changer, or a half or even a year, depending on the size of the company. Absolute game changer.
I always like to share this story. There's a wealth advisor in my network, and my favorite account-based marketing technique that he shared was he's targeting high net worth individuals, business owners.
Yeah.
Everybody wants a meeting with these people.
Yeah.
Like, every financial advisor out there is just slobbering at the mouth for that. But what he decided to do is he bought back when drones were like cool, like nobody had one.
Yeah.
He went and bought a bunch of drones, and for each person on his target list, he would send them the drone, but not the remote. And there would be a note in there that would say, "Oh, hope you enjoy the drone. If you want the remote, call me." And it worked so well. I mean, these are people, they could have gone out and bought a drone for themselves, right? He wasn't giving them something they couldn't access, but they were so intrigued and so delighted just by the gamesmanship of what he was bringing to the table. They were like, I respect that. I'm going to give you a call.
Oh, that brings up another one that was so fun. So one of our manufacturing clients sold to other manufacturers, and helped them customize their manufacturing environments. And so it was basically like Legos for engineers, if you will, where you could build anything that you wanted. And we were having a really difficult time clarifying we do mean anything. And so their internal engineering team, like for fun, had built a 6-pack holder out of their components. And when we caught wind of that, Yeah, we sent the components. We sent, a pretty instruction manual. Like, this is how you put it together with a picture, that it was. And I mean, there were so many fun ideas that came out of that, but it was so well aligned with the buyer persona, with they're gadget guys. They like to build things. They like to figure things out. And the creativity was so, so fun. And I'm glad you're bringing these up, because I think that's one of the big things about account-based marketing is this is not bland. I mean, we want this to be high appeal, high curiosity, high delight, where both the sender and the recipient is like, all right, that was good.
Exactly. You want to just be sitting there being like, oh, they're going to get it today.
Yeah.
They're going to get it today. They're going to open it today.
Yes.
And you can't wait to see what the response is. And that's that delight for the person who's doing the sending. It's part of what makes it possible to keep going for as long as it takes.
So true. So true. I will never forget one specific client the first time I spoke with him as a prospect, because he answers the phone and he goes, I was wondering when you were finally going to call, because he had gotten all of the touches. And I was like, I'm winning this deal. And I did. And they were a great client for a number of years that are just crushing it now. But it was, like you said, just that validation that we had really done it right, and just, it was so fun. So fun. Okay. One of the other ones that we've got, wrapping up the fastest ways to accelerate your B2B lead generation, is we have earned media. So earned media is public relations. I mean, it's doing something or having notoriety, good or bad, hopefully good, out in the market that intrigues people and accelerates their interest and awareness of you. So for you, when are times that you would activate earned media, or, why do you say this is one of the ways we can get faster lead gen?
I would say there are a couple of different situations where this is highly appropriate. Number one is if you're in a commoditized market. And we did a show recently about B2B commercial construction.
Yeah.
Where there are so many of them. So, if you're doing something that a lot of other people can also do, and you really need to stand out for how you're doing it differently, what kind of impact you're making, that's a really good example of when you need to be going out there and figuring out what's the biggest splash that I can make that really helps people. And that, tugs at the heartstrings, that reporters are like, oh gosh, there was this great story and I get to cover it. You need to be thinking from the perspective of how does this make people feel?
Yeah.
When you're deciding, what kind of impact you're going to make, and also having fun with it. So back to the marketing and sales, this should be fun.
Yeah.
So building that into it. And the other area I would say is if you're in some kind of prestige marketplace. So where it's all about who has the biggest fish on their wall, if you will, who's got the awards and the trophies, the things that get you nominated, that get your organization recognized for those high value industry awards, are the things that you do that are newsworthy even beyond your own industry.
Yeah. And people should be systematizing that award submission, those nominations, being a part of that. One and done doesn't work here when you're talking about prestige triggers. So agree. But this is other people talking about you.
Yes.
And so this is a really great one that's secondary, kindred, little sister to referral marketing, because now these big voices out there, whether they're influencers or publications or anything like that, are pointing to you as the one to go to, the one that's setting the standard. And it's incredibly impactful. I mean, it can really accelerate a stranger, not just into a friend, but into a prospect, and get you a seat at the table much, much faster. And that's really when your brand and your reputation is greasing the wheel and shortening that sales cycle, because they just feel like they know you. Like, do you remember the phrase, nobody ever got fired for hiring IBM, or nobody ever got fired for hiring Xerox? This does that. It removes fear, increases confidence, and shortcuts that need for validation, because you've been validated everywhere. So
it is. And you need to be prepared. If you are going the PR route with earned media, you may have a very sudden influx of interest, and you need to have a plan in place for what comes next. So have you pre-built the journey that people will take from they've never heard about you, now you're all over the news for amazing things and everybody wants to have a conversation? Do you know what is the next step for them? So you need to make sure that you're prepared for success.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing that I want to start wrapping up is, guys, we are talking about accelerating B2B lead gen. However, we know you actually mean you want more revenue faster. It's about revenue. That's why the quality of the leads, thinking through this strategically is so important. And that's why I left this one for last, because your best leads are going to come from your current customers. Cross-selling, upselling, reducing client churn. Holy cow. We have seen so many times where we have leaders, sales leaders, owners, chirping, more leads, more leads, more leads, more leads. But if you are churning or actually just ignoring the opportunities inside of the people that already loved you, already spent all of this, have a sunk cost in you, if they abandon you, that's where your real revenue and your real resilience comes from, because you can't scale if you can't keep clients.
Very true. And the other place to look is obviously within your existing lead pool.
Yeah.
Because that's the other section that gets ignored by B2B companies. They're like, well, they weren't at SQL.
Yeah.
So, or, well, this deal, they just stopped responding.
Yeah.
Okay. Any deal that's gone cold, anything that you haven't got a no on, that's a place that you want to at least explore. Now, a lot of those people, are never going to respond again. And that's okay. But some of them have just gotten busy, or some of them just haven't had a question answered in a way that makes sense to them. And you need to be re-engaging, not just with, hey, did you have any questions? But in, figuring out ahead of time, okay, we're seeing these patterns within our marketplace that are making it harder for people to move forward. How do we solve that? And we bring that back into deals that have gone cold and see if providing that additional value helps move them forward.
The number one competitor in B2B sales is no decision. More deals are lost to no decision than anything else. So guess what? All those folks that ghosted you last year, they still have that problem. You might want to rewarm that lead pool. Agreed. I love this tactic. And we ourselves get business from this by maintaining high quality connection to people that we lost. And I mean, we've got a number of stories where we closed the deal a year later, a year and a half later, 2.5 years later, because they stayed and followed and kept reading, and they just weren't ready to pull the trigger. But we were the obvious answer when finally they couldn't delay anymore. I'll take it. That's really how you build resilience. So you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. So if you liked this, go ahead and hit that like button. More importantly, hit that subscribe button, because then we can show up in your channel every single week. And we would love to hear what your biggest driving questions and problems are. We want to help you figure out in the most practical way how to get marketing working for you so that you can accelerate growth and have amazing impact in the world and achieve all of your dreams. So you guys, thank you so much. We love you, and we'll see you next week. Onward and upward.